All right, let's pull back the curtain on something we all go through, the job interview. We're going to look at it not just as a chat about your skills, but as a psychological stage, a place where these really subtle dynamics can knock you off balance before you even know what hit you.
I mean, we've all been there, right? You walk out and you're just second-guessing every single answer, feeling like you got tripped up somehow. But you can't quite put your finger on how. Well, turns out there's a really good reason you feel that way.
And that's the key. The second you walk into that room or hop on that video call, you're not just having a chat. You're stepping into a unique psychological environment. It's a space that is designed with certain pressures in mind, and just understanding those pressures is your first step to taking back control.
So let's start decoding those hidden rules. We're going to look at the specific pressures that make that interview room such a potent space for, a little psychological influence.
Just think about it for a second. There's an obvious power imbalance, right? You're under time pressure, and you know every single word you say is being judged. That combination creates the perfect storm. It puts you in a state of mind where these subtle tactics can be incredibly effective.
This is so important to get. The most effective manipulation isn't some aggressive, in-your-face thing. No, it's the kind that just flies under the radar. It's disguised as being professional, maybe even polite. It feels so normal that you don't even think to question it.
And look, these aren't some kind of magic tricks. They're just psychological levers that tap into predictable human responses we all have. Take authority bias. That's just our tendency to agree with people in power. Or cognitive overload. That's what happens when your brain just gets fried with too much information at once. Under the stress of an interview, these little levers become super powerful.
Okay, so let's get into how these levers are actually used. We'll start with a few tactics that are all about controlling the pressure and the pacing of the conversation. These are the ones that can shift the power dynamic before you even notice.
This one's a classic. You finish giving a great answer and then nothing, just silence. They're just looking at you. That silence feels like a giant, empty void, and our natural instinct is to just rush in and fill it with more words.
And that is the trap, right there. Because in that panicky rush to fill the void, you start rambling. You might over-explain a point that was perfectly fine, or accidentally reveal a weakness you never meant to. Or, and this is the worst, say something that totally contradicts what you said 2 minutes ago.
Now your defense here is actually pretty simple, but boy, it takes discipline. First, you have to see the silence for what it is, a tactic. Then, you just have to get comfortable with it. Resist that urge to keep talking. Answer the question fully, and then stop. Just stop talking. Let them make the next move.
Okay, so now for the total opposite of silence. The interviewer starts hammering you with questions, one after another, bam, 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 without giving you a moment to breathe. The goal here is pretty simple. Get you out of your thoughtful, prepared mindset and into a purely reactive one.
So what's happening in your brain? Well, it's getting overloaded. Your higher-level critical thinking just kind of shuts down. You start defaulting to simple, top-of-your-head answers, and the chance you'll make a mistake goes way, way up.
Your defense is to take back the pace, which is absolutely your right to do. A simple, confident phrase like, that's a great question. Let me just take a second to structure my answer. That's not a sign of weakness. It's the sign of a thoughtful professional who refuses to be rushed.
All right, let's shift gears a bit. We're moving on to tactics that are less about the pacing and more about getting inside your head. These are the ones that directly target your thoughts and your emotions.
This one is so subtle, but it is incredibly powerful. The interviewer will ask you a question that has a negative assumption baked right into it. So it's not really a question, it's a trap, and it's designed to put you on the defensive from the get-go.
Look at this example. It's perfect. The word abruptly immediately frames your departure as if it was sudden, maybe even problematic. Now, if you just jump in and start explaining why you left, you've accidentally accepted their negative frame.
And here's how you fight back. You dismantle their frame before you answer their question. First, you just calmly and gently correct the false part. Actually, my departure was planned. Then, and only then, do you answer the real question about why you left. See? You've just taken back control of the whole story.
Now, let's talk about the stress question. This is where an interviewer might ask a totally reasonable question, but they'll ask it in a really dismissive or aggressive tone. The interesting thing here is the mismatch. Their goal isn't your answer. Their goal is to see how you react to the pressure. Your job is to completely ignore the bait and just answer the question.
Well, we're speaking to some other candidates who have a lot of experience in X. Sound familiar? This little line is designed to trigger your insecurity, to make you compare yourself to others. It makes you feel like you're already behind, so you start scrambling to oversell and over-justify yourself. The key is, don't compete with ghosts.
Okay, so we've looked at all these different tactics. The big question is, what's the universal defense? This brings us to the most important part of this whole thing. Your core strategy for staying grounded and in control, no matter what they decide to throw at you.
Think of this checklist as your master key. This isn't about learning a unique counter move for every tactic. No, it's about adopting a few simple, really powerful behaviors. Slow down your breathing. Always pause before you answer. Calmly correct their bad assumptions. Stop trying to get their approval and just focus on being clear. Separate their tone from the question itself, and always, always protect your own pacing. These few things will neutralize almost everything we've talked about.
And this right here is the ultimate takeaway. These psychological tricks, they only really work in the dark. They work when you're not aware of them. But the second you can put a name to what's happening, the moment you think, that's controlled silence. Its emotional power over you just evaporates. Awareness truly is your best shield.
And let's be really clear about something. This isn't about learning to play mind games or becoming a manipulator yourself. The goal is actually the opposite. It's about being so grounded, so calm and clear that their games just don't work on you. Real strength in an interview isn't about being clever, it's about being authentically and unflappably yourself.
So we'll end with this thought. You have the playbook now. You understand the hidden rules of the game. So the next time you walk into that room, this awareness is going to be your single greatest asset. The only question left is, how are you going to use it?